Hey, so welcome back to my channel. So in a couple of weeks there's going to be the Nieuwjaarstoernooi in Uden. This is a New Year's tournament to be held in Uden in the Netherlands. So as the year is going to be 2020, the organization demands some special attention to the army list. So there are 4,200 point army lists, and you can score some additional points in some way, up to a maximum of 3. One is to paint 2020 on one of your banners, and there's just a ton of things you can do. One of the things is also to bring 2020 points of core troops, exactly on the dot 2020 points. So I thought personally that this would be a bit of a core focused tournament, but apparently a lot of people actually preferred the other options. So let's get into the lists. I'm going to try and talk about 1 minute about each list to keep the video a little bit concise. So let's start with Jan Willem Veenhoff. He's better known on the internet as Blonde Beer or Blonde Beer. I don't know which one he actually intended. So he's bringing his Asklander army that he has been painting up for the past year, I believe. And it's just a beatstick army basically. So I'm just gonna pick out some points in the list and talk about those. So he has like 41 Asklanders with great weapons. He has 3x20 berserkers, and that is basically the core of the army. The backbone of the army. So the funny thing is that these Asklanders with the shields, they have I believe a 4-up armor save against ranged, and then in combat it drops down to a 6+ armor save. And the berserkers, they can completely go wild once they go into combat. I think it's a nice list, but the wizard only has the path of thaumaturgy, so that's not going to help a lot in combat, I think. So yeah, you basically face the units as they are on paper. But still, I think a lot of people are not going to know the Asklanders, and Jan Willem will be able to surprise quite some people. So then let's go to the next list. So this is Erik van der Zande's Dread Elf list. So this is actually, I know that Erik also watches my videos, and we had some discussions on, he is very active on the forum in building this type of army. So it's a Cult of Nab theme army for Dread Elves, which means that you're only allowed models that are either unaligned to any cult or have the Cult of Nab. And this gives your core troops, your legionnaires and your auxiliaries also Cult of Nab, so hatred, instead of killer instinct. But if you add a cult priest to the units on foot, then you regain your killer instinct. So the legionnaires here, they have hatred, lightning reflexes, killer instinct, and death trance from the banner of Kardikos. So I guess people are gonna underestimate this unit. So we did have some different opinions on what kind of support that you need for these units. So my opinion is that you don't really need the Ring of Shadows because a lot of people don't really have a lot of offensive shooting. And I support the army with a Witchcraft Mage, which neuters some enemy shooting. But he prefers the Ring of Shadows, and I think the Alchemy added also helps to just buff the armor of the unit. But if you're up against stuff like flamethrowers or well, there's a lot of stuff that can still damage your legionnaires quite a bit. So I prefer to just be able to go into combat as quick as possible. But in support he also has the 10 Executioner darts that I also really like, because these guys really pack a punch. And the Dread Reapers I'm not sold on, especially for singles tournaments, but maybe for team tournaments this is the better list. Then the next one, so we also have some different formats in this tournament. So this is a Dwarvenhold list, and the list also had a bit of attention with some fancy names like King Tori Stormheart of Stormhold. Yeah, so he has a Lord with some magic items on Shield Bearers, a Thane with some magic items, Boris the Dragon Seeker. Then we have some Warriors, some Greybeards, some Marksmen, some Hold Guardians, some Seekers, only 13 though, 2 Vengeance Seekers, and a Flame Cannon and a Catapult. and that is the list. So that's a very balanced list. It's a dwarven list. Dwarven lists do what dwarven lists do, I think, especially when they're balanced. So I think for balanced dwarven lists, it's more difficult maybe to get a good win, because your opponent can basically dictate where the combat happens. So you do need some shooting to make sure your opponent does come towards you at least. So this is the list of Luis Merino. He plays Dwarvenhold a lot, and I also faced him with my Dreadhell fast cavalry army. So my fast cavalry is quite vulnerable to shooting and does want to just go through stuff rather than to stay stuck. So Dwarves is not the ideal opponent for this list. Anyway, so he has an anvil, he has a runic smith, so just to have some magic. Then I believe he's very fond of these 33 clan warriors with spear and shield, with the banner of the Relentless Company, which I can very well imagine. And I've also seen this unit just walk across the field, and I believe it was at the WTC that my teammate played against him, and he had his Sylvan Elf, I believe, and he just charged into this unit from every single side, and still it wasn't enough. Then there's this big block of Hold Guardians, and just all the Seekers to knock stuff down in combat. So I think probably the Seekers are things that are really good into tournaments where there's going to be a lot of close combat, and seeing the setup of having the requirement to have a lot of core, I would expect a lot of combat focused lists, even though a lot of people apparently didn't bring any. So I can imagine that that you go for Seekers in this tournament, and of course there's quite a lot of fun to be had with so much Seekers. Flame Cannon is a nice addition just to mop up infantry or multiple wound, low armor stuff like ogres. Cannon just to keep the big boys down. But yeah, I think I prefer the ballistas over the cannons for dwarves. And steam copters, they are just awesome. So I think this is a good list, and it's gonna perform well. Then we have Michiel Augustijn. He is also playing dwarves, but he has a little bit more of an MSU approach to it. So he has also this block of clan warriors with spear and shield, and the banner of the Relentless Company. It's just a good pick. He also has an assortment of characters, amongst which also an engineer for his organ gun and his cannon. So I don't know why he also went for a cannon. Maybe the dwarven players can explain to me why you would go for a cannon with dwarves. Also the 2x attack copter, also some seekers, vengeance seekers, some warriors, and he has the Hold Guardians in a 2x3 setup. And I thought this was really interesting because they are flexible units, and like this they're really heavy chaff basically. So I can imagine them just holding up a unit of knights that want to charge, or just to pressurize the flank. And Michiel is a really good player with his dwarves also, so I think he can pull it off to have a list like this, and really play towards the strengths of it. So yeah, I think it's a well-rounded list, and it has a little bit of everything. It doesn't look very scary on paper, but once pieces come together, it's well, it's MSU, so it should be like that, right? And it's cool that dwarves can play like this nowadays. Then we have Erik Ames, I think. So I looked at this list, and it's a little bit of a weird setup, I would say, because he only has 450 points in characters. So he has a Harbinger, that's his general. He's a wizard added, so not even a wizard master, but he does have the Mark of the Eternal Champion for an extra spell. And then he has the Mark of the Eternal Champion on the champion of his imps. I would have expected either a standard on the imps or some champions in the Eidolons, just to get some extra magic. But he has the imps twice, so he can basically, his magic phases should just spam the Spear of Infinity, because he has it 1, 2, 3 times, and he has 2 evocation spells. So it might actually still be sufficient magic. So what does he otherwise have? He has lemures that have to just to fight on their own, I think. 2 times Titan Slayer Chariot, which is a weird choice, I would say, in a tournament that, well, I would have expected to focus so much on core. But the Centipede legs are a good upgrade on these. Then the Eidolons, and I don't remember, to be honest, what the Aura of Despair does. I haven't seen a lot of Eidolons, but I've always heard that Kaleidoscopic Flash is just essential to keep these guys alive. The 6 Hoarders with mirrored skills, that's a very common pick. And it's a very good pick because they just stay. But I believe demons can also put the BSB on the table, and I think the Hoarders, they really want the BSB. So I think it's a little bit of an army list that conflicts itself in some points. Can still further be optimized, but well, the setup of just bringing minimized magic with demons is surprising. So it could be very well. I don't know. Then we have Mano. Mano, he also featured once on my channel with a list that was kind of different to this one. I was gonna say kind of similar, because he also had a Kulima's Deceiver, he also had the Myrmidons, the Succubi, the Hellhounds with the Hot Blood, the Veil Serpents, but he didn't have the twice 5 Sirens. He did have the 5 Furies, I believe, and he didn't have the Brazen Beast. But instead he had an Omen in his Succubi, I think. No, in the Myrmidons, and the Kulima's Deceiver was in the Succubi, yeah. And he had the Clawed Fiends, and apparently he didn't really like the Clawed Fiends. I can imagine that the Brazen Beasts, they give a bit more of a threat. I think personally I would maybe even prefer Blazing Glories over the Brazen Beasts, because they can perform also when they don't charge, whilst the Brazen Beasts are really just glass cannons. But once they do charge, it's really amazing, of course. I don't know if demons can actually get cosmology magic, but cosmology magic might help out with these Brazen Beasts a lot with Truth of Time, which is just a very low casting spell, so you can just one dice it and put your opponent in a lot of pain, or well, just basically threat the entire board with them. And otherwise, I think it's a nice list. He relies a little bit more heavily on magic with the Protean magic and the Wizard Adept on Avocation. He's gonna have a lot of buff spells in combat, and also still with the Veil Serpents. So these Myrmidons, whilst they only seem to be 20 and not that dangerous, they are gonna fight an extra rank with Lightning Reflexes, with probably a reroll to hit or to wound, and some other shenanigans. So they're gonna be way more scary than you might expect at first, and there's gonna be a greater, or well, kind of a greater demon inside the unit. So yeah, it's I think it's the problem he faced when he was facing me is that his army was basically consisting out of like 4 units, 5 units. That would actually do stuff, and he didn't have sufficient chaff for it. So I think that this setup is definitely improvement for him. Then we go to Infernal Dwarfs. So we have a Prophet who is a wizard with some stuff. We have a Vizier who's a BSB. Does the BSB have? No, he doesn't have the Icon of the Inferno, so he's not gonna fully focus on magic. We have Citadel Guard with Flintlock Axes, Citadel Guard with Flintlock Axes, Hobgoblins with Spear and Shield, Orc Slaves with paired weapons, Immortals, and Toruk, 5 Toruk, and another 5 Toruk. Oh, these are the small Toruk, right? Yeah, because they're not the Toruk big boys. Then we have 700 points in barrage, so we have a flamethrower and 2 Titan mortars. I don't like Titan mortars in the sense that I don't like to face them, so I think they're a good pick. And then we have 2 armored giants. Yeah, so that's a funny list. That's something I didn't really see coming. So the armored giants are probably just heavy chaff on the flanks. The Titan mortars are there to do the real damage, to the real scary stuff. And it's good to either have an engineer or to have 2 of them. Because yeah, they have one shot at 48-inch range with strength 7 D3 clipped wings. So if you have a dragon or something, then you're gonna suffer. But I haven't seen a lot of big monsters so far, really. So well, maybe a lot of people won't really mind the Titan Mortar. Yeah, so these mortals are always a pain, but they're only a pain if there's actually some output coming from the unit, and I don't actually know which lore that this caster had. Probably it's a wizard master on whatever. Oh yeah, alchemy. Yeah. So he's on alchemy, so he's gonna have Quicksilver Lash, Silver Spike, Molten Copper as offensive spells, and the Haze of Magnesia. But the Haze of Magnesia, you will get a reroll to wound on the Quicksilver Lash and Molten Copper, but yeah, there's not a lot of damage coming out of this unit, so I really think that if you go with Immortals, you need the Icon of the Inferno on your Vizier BSB, just to ramp up the damage. Because now you have like 570 points plus 315 plus the Immortals. Where are they? 519. So that's like 1400 points. Probably going into one unit. That's a lot. They do have bodyguard, of course. Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think I would have set it up differently, but I never played with Infernal Dwarfs myself, so it's always difficult to judge an army that you never play yourself. So then we have Mario Scaper with the Kingdom of Aquitaine. So we have a Damsel, we have a Paladin, we have a Duke. So I believe the Duke lost his combination of the Might and Divine Judgment for the Crazy Duke. So now he has Renown, Tristan's Resolve, and Faith of Percival, which is also a nasty setup. So this Renown and Tristan Resolve, basically you just, if I'm right, you destroy the magic item of your opponent, and on 6s you have Lethal Strike with D3 wounds, or D3+1. And the Faith of Percival is rerolled once to hit and to wound, and your armor save, I believe. So that's a nice setup. Yeah, it just works. The only thing I would want to add is just a Potion of Swiftness. I think, yeah, for this character, it's really worth it to have a Potion of Swiftness. So, next time, Mario, you can bring a Potion of Swiftness. So we have a Wizard Master and Shamanism. I think that's just a generally good lore. With a magical heirloom, just to have sufficient magic, which I can understand. Then we have a Paladin with Piety that increases the War Aegis save of your unit, I believe. Knight's Aspirant with the Banner of the Last Charge, no one's gonna go in there. And I have seen people put these guys 4 white in a 12 unit size, because then if you still lose a model, you don't lose an impact hit, because you need 3 models wide to have a rank. So then I believe 4 wide is a good, because it's also more maneuverable than either 5 wide or 3 wide. So yeah, Mario, run them 4 wide, you'll enjoy it. Then we have Knights of the Realm, 2 units, just sword and board. Then 6 Knights Aspirant. I don't know why these are 6, because normally people play them 5. 18 Bowmen. Yeah, Bowmen are funny. I would have tried to give them crossbows, because you can give crossbows in Kingdom of Aquitaine. And I think the 6-inch extra range makes sure that you don't clog up your own battle line with them. And anyway, the Bowmen, they do have volley fire, but then you only ignore intervening models of the same size as you, and I don't know if Tall interferes with that. I believe it does, but I'm not sure. So then we have a Trebuchet. Yeah, I've never faced a Trebuchet. And we have a big block of Knights Forlorn, also with the Banner of the Relentless Company. So this Banner of the Relentless Company is something you see all the time. And it's just one of the best banners in the game, really. Especially on slow moving infantry. So if you have infantry that moves like 5'10", or 612, then it's not really necessary, but on these units it's definitely necessary. Yeah, so I think it's a nice one. Actually, the Paladin, he doesn't have a horse, so he's gonna go into the Knights Forlorn. Yeah, these Knights Forlorn, they're gonna be quite tough to take out, but then again, they're like 750 points on their own, so yeah, I don't know if these Knights are going to perform well enough. The advantage is that your opponent cannot get to your flanks that easily, because you have all the knights surrounding everything. But yeah, 755 points to spend on a unit of 30 bodies is a lot. Yeah. Anyway, so where is the next one? Oh, here we have Nick Hinseveld with also a Kingdom of Aquitaine. He has a Duke on a Hippogriff. So that's going to be fun for these Titan mortars and cannons. Then we have a Paladin with Wormwood Core. We have a Paladin with Questing Oath, so we don't have any magic. Balls to the wall. Then we have a big unit of Knights Aspirant. I can understand that you take Knights Aspirant because they have the reroll on the charge. Did Mario also have this? Yes. And 2 more units of Knights Aspirant. Yeah, I can understand that you don't really see the benefit of having Knights of the Realm. The thing is that Knights of the Realm, they still have their strength 4. Probably that makes quite a difference for Kingdom of Aquitaine players. Because if you're grinding something, then the strength 4 versus strength 3 can still make a difference. Then we have a big block of Knights of the Quest and Pegasus Knights. This is basically Pegasus list. So yeah, there's also one Paladin that can join them. I would have probably liked to see the other Paladin join the other Pegasus Knights just for thematic reasons, really. But I can imagine that he's either out on airborne gallantry points, because the Hippogriff counts towards this, the Pegasus counts towards this, these Pegasus Knights count towards it. I'm not sure if he didn't go over the cap for this airborne gallantry, but if not, then it's really a cool list. Yeah, it's going to be quite flexible. These Pegasus Knights, they do hit hard. So maybe a Damsel with Druidism that you can deliver in some way to these units would have been nice to be able to heal them up. But it's a cool list anyway. And then we go to Roderick van Dijk. He also plays Kingdom of Aquitaine. He has been playing Bretonnia before for a very long time. So now he's given a special twist to the Bretons. I believe he's one of the people that actually brought 2020 points of core, if I'm correct. Well, it looks like it. So he probably threw around his army quite a bit. So we have Damsel, Druidism, we have a Duke. What does he have? Just some weird stuff. Nice. Bad Weapon, Shieldbreaker is also cool. Now we have a Paladin with the BSB. We have 2 Castellans with Bannermen. They're going to go into the Peasant Levy on the 2nd rank with Legion Standard. So Bannerman itself also counts towards combat res, I believe. So you have a unit that has 3, 4, 5, 6 standard combat res, if I'm counting correctly. So you have 2 banners, you have 4 ranks basically. Yeah. Yeah, so I think this is quite a funny setup for the army. I don't know what his motivation was for the 10 Knights Forlorn. Because he doesn't have any character that goes in there. This unit puzzles me a bit. So I'd rather have even just another Scorpion, really, because the Scorpions are so incredibly cool to have. Yeah, so this obligatory unit Knights Aspirant with the Banner of Last Charge, then another bus of Knights of the Realm, and then stuff that's just gonna stay on the table. And just try to haunt the enemy away. I don't know how well this is going to perform in terms of damage output. But maybe he just wanted to play a different army for some time. Then we have Jethro. Jethro is bringing orcs and goblins. Also the standard setup of having a general, having a wizard master, having some utility characters. So he has a goblin wolf chariot with the BSB and stalker standard. So he can join the goblin wolf chariots to go through ruins with this unit. So that is really cool. Then we have 2 blocks of orcs. So there are feral orcs and common orcs, no ad bashers. So the upgrade to ad bashers is really good, I think, always. But of course it's also kind of costly. Some orc ball riders just for the armor save, basically. Some Nasher dashers, Nasher wrecking teams, and a great green idol. So my experience with orcs and goblins so far is that if your opponent knows how to deal with your Nasher wrecking teams, that they will just slow down your army more than the benefit you'll get out of them. And whether that is by dealing with them through ranged damage or by just sacrificing the correct unit, or like with his feral orcs, if he advances too far upwards, you can just frenzy bait his own unit through the Nasher wrecking team. And even if these Nasher wrecking teams, if they go through your units that don't really care a lot about this 2d6 strength 6, you can just park them in front of them and prevent your the orc and goblin player from being able to charge you. So you basically use their Nasher wrecking teams as chaff for themselves. So at first I thought they were great, and now I think they're a little bit less great. So that's how you learn how to deal with certain threats in an army, and then you change a bit your opinion. So overall a well-rounded list, no shooting at all, I believe. So that's going to be interesting. And he doesn't have the kind of raw power that Orcs and Goblins normally has with the Ad Basher units, or with a big block of Nasher Herd, or with a lot of giants. So I'm a little bit confused on where the points were. Well, there's 2 Wyverns. So yeah, I think he's gonna have a bit of a hard time against the Scorpions and the Cannons and the Titan Mortars. But it's a funny list. Then we have Joris van Soest, also plays Orcs and Goblins. He has a Goblin King on a Gargantula, yay! Oh yeah, he also played that one against me already. Basically this is kind of the list that he played against me. But he has a giant with a wrecking ball, yay, go Joris! That's awesome. Yeah, so cool list. So he has an Orc Warlord who's going to be able to stay in range of the Trolls, so that's always the issue with Trolls, of course. And a Goblin King that I would prefer on the flanks. Spared Weapons Shieldbreaker is getting more popular, because there's more armor builds like Warriors of the Dark Lords and Empire. They like their armor sometimes. And also the characters, of course, they really like armor. And it's more worthwhile to be able to just completely neuter the armor than to have strength 7 and then are still faced with a 4+ armor save. So yeah, so otherwise there's no real surprises here. The Grotlings, I don't know if 6 Grotlings is really what you need, or whether 3 bases is enough. On the one hand it might be enough. I don't know if you can get them in smaller sizes, but well, 132 points, then probably the additional Grotlings don't cost anything, so yeah. And what else? We still have another Orc and Goblin list. So this is Mike the Squig Master van der Meulen. I also played against him sometime with a lot of squigs, and I was playing vampires, and my vampires had a higher agility. So when you have a higher agility than the Nashers, they tend to die pretty quickly. So I can see that he's stepped away from the big blocks of Nashers and instead now uses just the small units. They are funny units to use as small units because the damage output is incredibly high. On the downside, they're fearless. And for me, an MSU army that works with fearless units is gonna lose a lot, at least. Really a lot. So I like the MSU style of the army. These scrap wagons can be a pain in the ass. Natural wrecking teams. Orcs and Goblins is really good at fielding stuff that can do a lot of damage, but is quite fragile. Like the scrap wagons, Goblin Wolf Chariots, wrecking teams, Nashes. So if you can isolate these threats and deal with them one by one, then it's fine. But if everything's together on the board, then it's gonna get a little bit more tricky. So this is probably a list that's gonna deal a lot of damage to everyone, but also gonna take a lot of damage itself. Then we have Tom Oudehoven, also with Orcs and Goblins. So there's a lot of Orcs and a lot of Goblins there. Can't really see it that well, but I hope you can. So he does have the Forest Goblin build on Scuttler Spider, just to serve as chaff. So these guys, they can scout, they can vanguard, and they have a very small base. So in terms of chaff, this is one of the best pieces that you can get with Orcs and Goblins. He does have the big Nasher head. He has the Adbashers, also Trolls, 2 Splatters for the big crazy stuff out there. There's quite some big and crazy stuff, really. And the guys go into the Boar Riders. So this is basically just a beatstick army where you just go forward. You have you can play this very aggressively, actually. So you can first turn chaff the enemy with your Goblin Chiefs that scout, so you can still find out where the opponent is. I would have put the Banner of the Relentless Company on these Adbashers then. So then first turn you can just move up with Adbashers with the Boar Riders, go into charge range. Second turn you have the War for Swift Stride. The Nasher herd is a bit slower, the Bridge Trolls are still quite fast with movement 6, March 12. So yeah, you can just push 3 units at least just forward, and the Nashes you can use to protect the flank. I would have built this army in a way that you can charge turn 2, yeah, because it has the setup for it, but it still needs some minor adjustments to make it a little bit better at that. Then we have Hassel Idema with Ogre Khans. We have a general. Wow, we have a Khan BSB, so this is actually quite impressive indeed, because you don't see these great Khans that often, because usually people just take a shaman with Crown of Autocracy with Ogres, because the Ogre characters themselves, they also cost a lot of points already, just bare naked. So then people usually prefer to just have a shaman and a Khan, where the Khan has the BSB. He doesn't have any magic banner. Well, he has 2 HR icons on the BSB, so that's a bit of an anomaly. Then we have 7 bruisers and 6 bruisers just to fill out the core. Sabertooth. And then at this point you question yourself, like, where are your points? But then again, it's also 4,200. So there's this one character that's extra, and we have Bombardiers. So basically this is an Ogre gun line, then I would expect Pyromancy on the Wizard Master. And Ogres can also get Thaumaturgy, so I would have, instead of the Great Khan, put in a Shaman with Wizard added Thaumaturgy for the -1 Resilience spell. Because then your shooting is really going to shine. Question is whether the shooting is going to be enough to remove all the infantry that's present within the tournament from the field, because there's quite some. But then again, it might be sufficient. 2 Thunder Cannons is good to keep out the big stuff. Another Ogre Khan army. So again we have Great Khan, so that's impressive, like 2 Great Khans, wow. Kagadai's Legacy, that's the big ogre weapon, and then we have a Battle Standard Bearer Khan with the Banner of Jen thingy. Shaman with Wizard Master Shamanism, Tribesman, Bruisers, Scraplings. So this looks like 2020 points. Yay! He did it! Yeah. Yeah, so this is still quite impressive. 3 blocks of ogres they can put on a World of Hurt. The only thing is that maybe your opponent will be able to put on more hurt. So the armor piercing of these tribesmen is not that great. So then we have a lot of trappers. That's funny. Kin Eater and this slave giant. Why would you put it? Yeah, it's the 18-inch musician. I don't know if you. I don't really have a sense of why you specifically would put a slave giant in this list and not just take an Auroch instead of the Kin Eater and the slave giant. But anyway, yeah. Then we have Nick. I played a test battle against Nick, so I know this army a bit better already. So he does have the setup where you have a BSB Khan and a general shaman with the crown of autocracy. Wizard Master Thaumaturgy because he was a little bit afraid of gun lines, I believe. So we have 3 blocks of ogres again. So once bruisers, another time tribesmen, and then the tribesmen again, and with scraplings to round out the core. 3 Canators, 2 Sabertooths, Tusker Cavalry, done. So this is, yeah, it's a nice list because it has sufficient chaff. The Canators can ambush when desired. So we did a test battle where I was playing Warriors of the Dark Gods, and I figured that in 2020 core I would put a Helmar on the list. If you put a Helmar down against ogres, then the ogres are gonna be very sad. So our test battle was kind of what we both expected, I think. But it was a good experience to get a better understanding of what you can do against this such a Helmar build. So it's a nice list. It can certainly dish out some damage, and I really like the Thaumaturgy on the Wizard Master to make the enemy come closer towards you. Then we have Vincent Finesse with Ogre Khans. I believe Vincent didn't play for quite some time, but now he's back, so we're glad to have him back in the community. So Thaumaturgy Wizard Master again. So he also wants to lure people in, and you can see that with the Tusker Cav, with the Rock Auroch. So basically this is the non-core focused equivalent of the previous list, I would say. And he has a mammoth, yeah. What else? Oh, here we have a Ogre Khan army of Nick Vogels. So he also has a Great Khan. I think this is all the stuff he has. So Wrestler Belt, Heart Ripper. I like this format for the tournament itself, because you can really clearly see what the model has. Yeah, I really like that. But just for this discussion, it's not that useful, to be honest. So Def cheated Khan. Why does he? BSB, yes. Okay. Oh, here's the wizard. Wizard adept only. Okay, so maybe we have another wizard. Mercenary veterans. Shaman. So we don't have any core, we just have mercenary veterans. 8 models, 937 points. Wow. I never faced these guys on the battlefield, but I can imagine that they're quite sturdy if they have 937 points for 8 models. So they have Iron Fists, they have full command, they have battle scar, they have plate armor. Wow. And magic resistance 2 and swift strike. So they have a total of a 3+ armor save, and it's 8 times 324 wounds with 3+ armor save. Yeah, that's with strength 5 from themselves and 4 attacks. Ooh. They're cool guys. I should play against ogres with mercenary veterans more often to get a feel of what they do. Kin Eater. Here's the core. So we have tribesmen and bruisers. 11 bruisers, 11 tribesmen. Wow. He wants to play with the big blocks. And that's it. Okay. So he doesn't have a lot of chaff. He has virtually no chaff. He just has 1 Kin Eater. And that's it. That's balls to the walls, man. Like multiple walls. Cool. Then we have Sam Janssen. I saw this list quickly and I liked the concept of the list. So you have 3 Skink captains. Probably they all go into the Skink Braves and they make the Skink Braves amazing. So I think he only needs like 20% core. Or is this 20? This is not 25%. I don't know if Saurian Ancients only needs 20%, but otherwise it might be an issue. So I think depending on the matchups, the King captains either go into this unit or in this unit, and then the rest of the list basically just rounds out the list. It's just a balanced list. It's funny. It has a little bit of everything. Well, ideally it can deal with anything. One thing that I noticed is that he has the Alpha Carnosaur, but he doesn't have the Stegodon that gives him a 5+ ward save against ranged, which is basically what you want when you field this guy. Because the Jade Staff doesn't do that, right? Yeah. Cool. What else do we have? We have more Saurian Ancients. So we have a Saurian Warlord on an Alpha Carnosaur. Let's see if this guy does have the Taurosaur with the engine or something. Then we have a Quattle Lord Wizard Master, 750 points. Dang. What else? Then we go to core because there were no character points anymore. Oh no, this is special even. So Rampedon Riders, Salamander, Spearback. There's just 1, 3, yeah. And Saurus Warriors, Skink Braves. So this is the 850 points core. Yeah, then probably they only need 20%. Caimans, Snake Swarms, and a Taurosaur with Engine of the Ancients. That's it. Yay! Yeah, so I think it's a funny list. I would have tried to squeeze in a second Taurosaur, I think. But well, a Taurosaur is equivalent in points to this set of models, basically. I think, more or less. Yeah. So I can't imagine that he didn't. But yeah, just to change out 6 Caimans for a Taurosaur might be an idea. Because these Caimans, I've seen them on the field and they didn't really impress me. So, but I'm not really good with the Saurian Ancients. I would build the army in a completely different way. So, is this still the same list? This is still the same list. Where's the rest? Here we have Jordi Code. Yeah, Jordi Code with Undying Dynasties. We have a Wizard Master again. And we have a General. We don't have a General. No General for Jordi. Poor Jordi. We have 2x5 Chariots, Scout and Archers, Scout and Warriors. And I think that this is 2020 points of core. I think Undying Dynasties is also one of the armies that can get away with fielding 2020 points of core. He does not have any chaff at all. So to me it's incredible that he doesn't play with any chaff. And he doesn't have any entombed units. So maybe no, he doesn't. The 2 Battle Sphinxes, 2 Charnel Catapults. I think a lot of people are gonna rip this apart. Even though the chariot units, they are really sturdy units. But if you your opponent is gonna feed you something, you're gonna have to deal with it. And then yeah, you're gonna have a problem. Ideally for your opponent. So I think you need more chaff, but I don't have a lot of experience against Undying Dynasties, to be honest. So, and also not a lot of experience against this type of army list. So maybe it's gonna win the tournament. Gijs Verhagen, is that? No, that's not the next one. Here, Edwin de Vries, Vampire Covenant, Brotherhood of the Dragon. So we have a Wizard Adept, Brotherhood of the Dragon, Eternal Duelist, Plate Armor, Shield, Great Weapon, Bad Weapon, Lance, Spectral Steed, Eternity Gem, Death Cheater, Occultism. He has everything. So this is a wizard adept model, and it's 920 points in total. My vampire count that I play is 670, 600 and something, 650 points, more or less. He's also geared for combat, so he has mine has 6 attacks with strength 6, and cursed medallion, so he gets reroll to hit and to wound against one specific model. So I think that is better set up, just for points, because here you're just spending a lot of points that in a lot of situations are not gonna matter. But a theme army like the Brotherhood of the Dragon is, of course, very cool. Then we have a count who's gonna go with the skeletal steed into the Baronites. I would expect the True Thirst on this guy, but he apparently doesn't have it. True Thirst also helps with the healing of your own vampire, so I really like that. It's also a count actually, it's not even a Coche, wow. Zombies, ghouls, wolves, knights, spawn. That's a very simple army. So it's going to be very important where to put these 2 units, this unit, and these 2 guys. And the rest of the army doesn't really matter. It's probably still quite a flexible army because of the high movement of the units. But there's going to be some matchups where he's going to be in a world of pain. Gijs Vragen with the Vampire Covenant, he's going to go for Strigoi. Banshee, I never played Banshees myself, maybe I should try them again. And then we have Strigoi Ghouls, we have Skeletons, Direwolves, the Barrow Guard. So the Barrow Guard, normally in Vampire Covenant you have a lot of infantry in your core already, and now it's kind of not really the case, so you can go to special to fill out this army. Varkelark, Vampire Spawn, and Vampire Knights, so this is just a nice setup. I would have preferred in some way a Dark Coach instead of this Spawn, because for the points that it costs, it's so much more sturdy than these Vampire Spawn. So maybe get like I would play the Vampire Knights in a unit of 3 without any upgrades, because they're gonna do mostly the same, and then exchange the Vampire Spawn for a Dark Coach. Because then you can also just walk away with your Barrow Guard, for example, from your Ghoul block where your Strigoi Vampire is going to be in, because he has the Hypnotic Bandit, so yeah, he's going to go there. Because I faced the same issue with the Barrow Guard, that they cannot march once they're outside of 12 inches of your general, and that sucks. Yeah, okay. Are we then at the end? No, more vampire counts. So we have a vampire count Nosferatu. So Jan van der Steen showed in Den Haag that actually Nosferatu is also quite an impressive line. But then you go for the skeletons with Legion Standard. They're only 20, so people will wonder where your ranks are, but you're just gonna raise them up because this vampire count can also increase skeleton units up to 40 only, because he starts with 20. So I would always start with 25, I think, so you can do 2 castings of evocation before you go against the limit. Court of the Damned, just clean is really good in this army to just make the matchup against elves better generally. But there's only the Dread Elves of Erik, and they don't really care about the court because they have spears, so you charge them. And then rates. So does he have shaman? Witchcraft. He does have evocation, I think. No, occultism. Evocation. Wizard Master also. Okay, so he does have finels. So that's 1 movement spell. And then we should check if he has the Necromantic Staff. Doesn't do finels, right? No. He doesn't have the Book of Arcana, I believe. No. So that's a bit weird. The champion here is not the... No, okay. 2 times Vampire Spawn. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Vampire Spawn. And Varkelark is nice. Then we go to the Vermin Swarm. Vermin Swarm is an army that I sometimes play against, but don't have a lot of experience with myself. So he has a Doom Bell and the Plague. Oh, this is 2 tower list. Okay. So the Plague Pendulum is really gonna kick some ass in this tournament, because I didn't see a lot of solutions to that, other than the Cannon and the Scorpion, but no real characters that can easily take it down. Maybe the Carnosaur. I don't know what happens between a Carnosaur and a Plague Pendulum. Probably the Carnosaur wins. Then we have the Plague Disciples. These are disgusting. Plague Catapults. Yeah, Dreadmill. Only one Dreadmill. Oh, I don't like Vermin Swarm. I'm just gonna skip this. So then we have Kunstmela with the Warriors of the Dark Gods. We have a Chosen Lord on a Winged Chimera with a Talisman of Shielding, Luck of the Dark Gods for a 4+ Aegis. Better roll these Aegis saves, man. So yeah, this is nice. This is a good build, because basically this guy itself, with the Burning Portents, does sufficient damage on his own, and there's not a lot of fire immune stuff. So then we have just Warriors of Gluttony. Gluttony I found to be underperforming, because it is nice, but it does give you only +1 strength and not +1 AP. And by the time I get into combat with my Warriors, it doesn't really matter anymore if I have this +1 strength or not for the rest of the game. So this is mostly useful on a character that is on his own, I think, that's just gonna mop up some chaff first turn and then have +1 strength for the rest of the game. So Shield Breaker, Paired Weapons guy, probably. And then we have basically for Chosen Knights, Warrior Chariot, Feldrugs, Morning Giants. It's in your face list. We're gonna smash stuff. Yay, smash stuff. Then we have Rule. Rule as an Exalted Herald. I started playing this guy and I really love him. So flexible, can do a lot. Combined with a Helmor, you turn the army into something completely different. The Warriors with Halberds and Goddess of Sloth. I think we all know these, so it's 2020 core, that's nice. These Sloth Warriors, they are really steady, but they have one drawback, and that is if they do form your main battle line, then my experience is that your opponent is able to specifically charge them with all his stuff and break through them. Because they're not steadfast, and they are a resilience 5, that is true. But still, the entire army of your opponent is gonna go through. Or if they don't go through, then the entire army flees out again, and you can just pursue with your 2d6. So yeah. I would have liked probably a Barbarian Chief on a horse somewhere to sit next to the Warriors. So that you can use the Slayers for that. So next turn, if your opponent is going to flee away, you can just chase them down with the Flayers. And a Forsaken One. Forsaken One is nice in this army to just cover your flank. You just put it down on the flank and you don't have to worry about the flank anymore. At least for some time. Yeah, so that's it. This was the last list. Which list do I think is going to win? Well, some of the Vampire Covenant lists were interesting. I don't think the Lizardmen are gonna take it. I don't think the... What's this? No. Ogres. The Ogres are sturdy. But if the stuff goes wrong, it goes wrong pretty darn hard. Orcs and Goblins might be able to do a lot of damage, but also will take a lot of damage. Kingdom? Nah, I don't believe in Kingdom. I didn't believe in this Infernal Dwarf list. Mano has a nice list for this, for the kind of matchups that are around. So Mano, you have something to do there. Michiel just plays amazingly with his dwarves. And then I think Erik also has a chance at ending quite high with this one, just because people will not know how much this list can do. And Jan Willem can actually also perform quite well with these Asklanders, just because everyone, there's a lot of lists that are just focused on running forward and smacking stuff, and Asklanders are quite good at dealing with this. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting tournament. Too bad I'm not going to be there, but I'm sure that a lot of people will enjoy themselves. So have a lot of fun, guys, and see you in the next time.